Hi, so winter is almost upon us. Yes, CAT 2022 is just round the corner. Keeping this in mind, we know each and every one of you is really excited but is also looking for the last final push and the fillip that is going to add those extra 5, 10, 15 percentile to your final CAT score. Well, because of this, BYJU'S exam prep brings to you the last lap to CAT 2022 starting on the 17th of October all the way till the 20th of November. Yes, 4.5 intensive, in fact almost 5 intensive weeks of preparation. What more, the focus is predominantly going to be CAT, which means, as we know, time, speed, distance and time and work in totality have almost equal weightage or sometimes even more weightage than geometry. So can we go ahead and leave geometry and just focus on these two? Can we go ahead and leave entire theta para jumbles and still score a 99.99 percentile in verbal? Yes, we can. This and much more in terms of preparation, in terms of intensive questions that we're going to look at and the smartest way of going ahead and solving that. So catch us on the BYJU'S exam prep app, and in case you missed that, on YouTube. But go ahead, download the BYJU'S exam prep app and also get a 99 percentilers kit which is going to help you ace CAT 2022. See you soon.
Hi guys, very wonderful afternoon to all of you. So guys, we are going to talk about an exam called XAT today. I believe there was already a session done long time back, about 30 days, 40 days back, where we spoke about what should you do for the, at that point in time it was about 100 days or 110 days left. I'm going to do a similar session today, but we have about 60 days, that's about 2 months left. This is 8th of November. Right? So the XAT exam is going to be conducted on the 8th of January 2023. So we are going to talk about what needs to be done for the next 60 days. What is this exam all about? If you guys are not very familiar with XAT or if you are having some kind of a doubt, I'm going to talk about the exam, what is going to be tested and what will be the topics, what will be the difficulty level of these topics, and more importantly, how should you prepare for these 60 days, right? So that's the basic idea, and let's go ahead and take a look at this. I need chat. Right. So guys, so my friends, I hope you guys are ready. Let's look at XAT 2023. Firstly, let's take a few things, take a look at few of the things. The first thing you need to understand is, as I mentioned, the exam is on January 8th. Now, every year, the exam is conducted on the first Sunday. However, in a year when the first Sunday happens to be on January 1st, the XAT examiners, they're very nice gentlemen. They say, okay, 1st January, we don't want to really mess up your happiness. So they very nicely shift it to the second Sunday. Otherwise, it is always the first Sunday, right? This year, first Sunday happens to be January 1st itself. Obviously, because of that reason, they have pushed it to the next Sunday, which is January 8th, right? Now, so we have about 200 institutes that participate for this examination, and the thing about this exam is it's been conducted over the last 72 years. I believe this is one of the oldest exams that you can think of as far as MBA in India is concerned. The registration is already ready. It's already live. 10th August it started, and the deadline for the registration is 30th of November. Now, I'll be writing this XAT exam too. I'm writing the CAT exam also. So we are going to have live analysis for all of these exams. In fact, I'll be taking the analysis for IIFT also. So guys, stay tuned onto our channel. If you're not already a subscriber to our channel, please do subscribe, because we have a lot of these sessions coming your way. So I'm yet to fill the form of XAT. So yes, I hope many of you out there will be filling the form as soon as possible. Please don't wait till 30th of November. I'm intending to finish off my XAT form today or tomorrow at the best case scenario. The admit card will be out by 20th of December. That is by the in another probably 12 days. Another 42 days, and the exam date is already mentioned. The result will be quite fast. So this is a institute which comes out with the results quite quickly. In fact, the 8th January will be the exam date. Within 2 weeks or sometimes even within 10 days, they will give out your response sheet, and by the end of the month they release their results. And the download, you can download the admit card in the time period mentioned over here from 31st January to about 31st March. But the interviews will start from the February onwards, Feb first week. So the XLRI interviews will actually start from the first week of February, because typically once first week or second week, so you need to be prepared by then, because you will not have too much of time for preparation between your result of XAT exam and the actual interview date for you. But then again, I don't think that's too much of a problem, because many of you will be preparing for your interviews right after your CAT exam is done. In fact, if you feel that you have done a really good job at an interview, at your CAT exam, if you feel that your response sheet, in fact, CAT comes out with the response sheet in the first 10 days itself. So if the exam is conducted on 27th of November, by December 10th, the response sheet will be released, usually within the first 10 to 12 days. So you will know what score you are getting, you can know what percentile can be expected, and your preparation can start right in December. Every year we have a lot of students preparing from December itself. So you need about 2 months of preparation for your interview so that you can really go ahead and crack the interview. Remember, my friends, the rate of selection in the interviews will be 1:3 or 1:4 depending upon the institute. If it's an institute like I am Ahmedabad, it will probably be 1:3, because they will not call too many students. They will call 3 times the number of students, or sometimes even 2.5 times only. So the competition will be quite stiff there too, right? But let's move on. So what is the exam all about? What happens in XAT? How is it different from the CAT exam? Let's take a look at it. Firstly, I hope you know the exam timing has changed. Normally the exam used to happen in the morning hours. This time the exam is starting from 2 o'clock or 2:15, something like that, in the afternoon. So there is a change of time, and unlike CAT, there are no slots. There is a single slot for everyone. So all those of you who are not afternoon people, who are habituated to taking a small nap in the afternoon, or you are not you're not a person who solves anything in the afternoon, please start working on your timing. Trust me guys when I say this, your brain needs to be accustomed to functioning brightly and fastly at that hour. So 2 o'clock to about 2 o'clock to about 5 o'clock, these 3 hours your brain needs to be sharp. So my recommendation is, please start solving whatever English, maths, logic, decision making, everything during these 3 hours for sure. Anyway, so what is the paper all about? The paper starts with verbal ability. By the way, this is a paper where there is no sectional time limit. You have these 3 parts which come under part 1, or these 3 sections which come under part 1. The part 1 has no sectional time limit. Once the timer starts for you, you can go through any of these sections without a problem. You have a total of 165 minutes, right? So that's 120 minutes, 2 hours plus another 45 minutes. So 2 hours, 45 minutes for the first paper. Once the first paper is done, you will start with the second paper. The second paper has 2 parts to it. One is GK, the other is essay writing. So the total time allocated here again is 25 minutes. There is no time limit here. Ideally, students will finish off GK as soon as possible in probably about 7-8 minutes, and devote around 15 to 18 minutes for your essay writing. Okay, so this is typically what happens. So you have a total of 101 questions, out of which one of them is GK, and the total time is about 190 minutes. There is no break in between. So that's 3 hours, 10 minutes without break. So make sure that you can stay without losing focus for 3 hours, 10 minutes. This is one of the longest exams as far as MBA is concerned. CAT is just for 2 hours, but here you have an extra hour and 10 minutes for sure. So make sure that you practice. So many of you who are practicing for CAT, when you go for XAT, all of a sudden you feel that it is exhausting, simply because in CAT you get it done within 2 hours. That's what you practiced for. XAT does not work like that. So you need to practice that extra hour of being able to stay focused, right? So that's the first thing you need to keep in mind as far as XAT exam is concerned. The second thing you need to realize is English is combined with logical ability. However, while they say it is verbal and logical ability, the logic part is very less in this section. It's mostly English. So you have critical and analytical reasoning, vocabulary, reading comprehension, logical deductions. But again, as I said, the pure logic like puzzles kind of questions have become less. There was a time where they used to be out of 26 questions. In fact, the pattern was different at that point. It was not 26, it was more than that. They used to give at least about 10 questions, 12 questions used to be from your normal logic that you know, logical ability, which is puzzle solving, arrangement, those kind of questions. But now it has completely decreased. I would not be surprised even if a single question from logic does not come, but you get your critical analysis or critical and analytical reasoning, which is also a kind of logical reasoning, but it is logical reasoning without puzzles. So it is called as verbal logic. So what they're doing lately is they are shifting the logic part into the verbal logic part. So here you're talking about critical reasoning, analytical reasoning, then you have logical deductions, which could be syllogisms kind of questions, or statement conclusions, statement assumptions. All these kind of topics can end up coming to you in XAT. Lokesh, yes, we conduct classes on YouTube. This way we will have last lap sessions for XAT too. Currently we are having last lap sessions for CAT. These are free stream live classes on YouTube. There will also be similar classes for you on XAT. So, but you'll have to wait for that. It will start in a little bit. Anyway, once the decision making section starts, you'll be looking at 21 questions, and decision making has been standard for the last 2 years. You have 7 sets and 3 questions each. 7 3s are 21. So 3 questions per set, and there will be 7 sets. So what is this decision making? Again, if you go back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, decision making was always there. But decision making in XAT earlier used to be questions which are normal decision making, which means what is the right course of action. They'll give you a story for a person or a person who is mentioned in the story, and they will ask you what should this person do. That used to be decision making. Apart from that, there used to be mathematical decision making too. So they will give you information about let's say an operational case study. So they will give you a number of machines which can produce some certain things. There is a cost associated, there is a profit associated with each machine. To maximize profit, which product should be produced? So that kind of analytical ability where you have to analyze the data, calculate a little bit, and take a decision. Those type of questions also used to come. However, in the last 2 years, if you look at it, in fact, in the last 3 years, you will notice that calculation-based questions have more or less died. Now, all the sets, that is the 7 sets, 21 questions, are mostly about the kind of decision a student should make. So there is a story given to you out about 2 or 3 passages, 2 or 3 paragraphs, sometimes a small passage itself of one paragraph, and the questions will be related to the information given there. It could be professional in nature, that is your business side. It could be your work related. It could be personal in story of an individual, not professional side, but somebody who's facing a problem in their household, or somebody day-to-day neighbor's problem or something like that. What is the right course of action? It could also be something to do with to do with a little bit of politics or a little bit of legal side of it. Any of these scenarios can be put to you, and your job will be to look at what is the right course of action. That is one of the biggest areas where people falter, because in maths, in logic, in English, there is an approach for you to come up with an answer, and you will say, okay, fine, this is the right answer, hence proved. In maths, 100% you can at least say there is an approach. You can prove in mathematics this is the correct answer. The problem comes in real life. The way I think somebody should be handling a situation is different from probably a professor thinks the way in which it should be handled. A situation should be handled. So therefore, what you think is the right answer might not be the right answer according to them. That is one of the biggest flaws or the problems in decision making. I'll give you a simple example. So I used to be a faculty in one of the business schools for about a couple of years. There I actually caught about 5 or 6 people cheating. I mean, they had the same answer sheets, same answers. One of the things I realized there is, when you copy something, yes, you can have the same answers, but the most glaring error that you will do is you will copy the wrong answers also, because you don't know what is right and what is wrong. So it is possible that 2 students can have the correct answers, but it is very unlikely that they will do the exact same mistakes. It's a dead giveaway. So I called all 5 of them and I asked them, why did you do this? One person came ahead, and told me that, sir, it is my mistake. I showed my paper to all of them, so I am ready to accept whatever punishment. So whatever that happened, and I was nice to them. I told them not to do this, but the 4 others who did not accept, they got a fail in that, and this person basically got 1 grade drop. That was my decision. Similar story actually came up last year or last before year in XAT. And the answer given by the professors there is, anybody who cheats basically should be given an F, irrespective of whether they came and accepted or not. Now remember, when I took a decision in a real life, I made some concession for the person who was honest, who came out. Whereas the professor's way of thinking in XAT will be different. Now you can't argue what is correct. So when the question came in front of me, I obviously gave the answer, which is what I did. But that was a wrong option according to the professors. Now, you can always keep arguing, why is it like that, why is it not like this? The point which I'm trying to make here is, there is no single hence proved answer here. That is the reason why decision making ends up being one of the most trickiest parts. Because you can always defend 2 or 3 options saying that this is the best course of action. You can always defend that. And you can keep arguing for the end of time. But at the end of the day, what you need to realize is what they say is the correct answer will be the correct answer, because these are ambiguous areas. So then how should you prepare for it? I'll talk a little bit about the preparation for decision making too, but let's continue. That's one of the areas, right? Yes, Vinay, that actually makes them tricky. I told you, right? The way you think and the way they think is different. Sometimes it will match, sometimes it will not match. In fact, the cutoff out of the 21, by the way, I hope you guys know this, XAT, every question is 1 mark, right? Every question is 1 mark, and if you make a mistake, it is 0.25 negative. Now, one of the things that you need to be, you need to be aware about for decision making is the cutoff will not be more than 5 marks, 5 to 5.5 marks. This is the cutoff. So you can see that people struggle to get even 7 or 8 marks in decision making. It's not an easy thing. Anyway, moving on. I think I've spoken enough about decision making, simply because verbal ability you all know, quantitative ability, data interpretation you all know. But decision making is the only section which is not there in your regular preparation for any other MBA entrance exam. So I'm spending a little bit of time on that. Next is quant ability. So what happens, your basic maths and your basic data interpretation, always in these 27 questions, minimum 1 set will be DI. As DI with a graph in it, and about 4 questions, 3 to 4 questions of DI will always be there. If you are lucky and if you like DI, that is, you can have 2 sets also, but 1 set is guaranteed. Okay, last year I believe there were 2 sets of 6 questions or 8 questions. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, there were 2 sets last year. But yeah, so you're looking at quant, which is basically a breakup of 19 plus 8 quant and DI. It could be typically somewhat like this, 4 plus 4 questions. They can change it, but you can also expect something like 4 plus 20, 23. This is also possible, right? But that's what happens. Now the next thing about GK. Now let me speak a little bit about GK. First information that you need to know about GK is this is not scored, which means the cutoff for your interviews are based on these 3, right? Your English score, the first section score, decision making score, your maths and DI score, and the overall score that you get of these 3 sections put together. That will be the deciding factor for you to say whether you're going to get an interview call or not. Your GK and essay will not play any role in your getting an interview call. However, they still administer this every year. What is the use of this? Where will they use this? My hunch, my guess is that there will be a use of this. They will get to know whether your writing skills will be evaluated if you are a person who's going to the interview, right? So they will be looking at the essay and the GK's part of it when and if you get selected into the interview round. So they will see your ability. So obviously they're not going to sit and read the essay written by the 65-70,000 people who write the XAT exam. Typically around 60,000 to 70,000 people write the XAT exam. So they will not evaluate everybody's essays. They will only evaluate those who will get selected to the interview. Okay, and that's basically what happens. So you have about 25 minutes. So what should you prepare for GK? I'm going to talk a little bit about that also, because GK is not there in CAT, so many people neglect it. But yes, if you are serious about XAT and you want to have a chance of making it through the interview and finally get admitted into XLRI, you might want to prepare a little bit about XAT, about GK at least, especially because exams like IIFT have GK in them, and IIFT, unlike XAT, will give you score there. So IIFT GK will make or break your cutoff. So they will be scored there. So in IIFT, if you're planning to write IIFT anyway, you have to prepare for GK. Divya, typically about 400 to 500 words is the limit. Okay, typically about 400 words should be good enough. Let's move on. Okay, now CAT was the only entrance exam up to few years back which had this theta. Type in the answer where there are no options available. There will just be a box given to you like this, and you will have a calculator like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then a decimal, a 0 and a backspace. Then this kind of a question where there is a question and no option. You will have to type the answer for the question here, only in numbers with decimal if required. So such kind of questions were called type in the answer or non-MCQ. It was first introduced in CAT. Now we also have similar kind of questions coming in your XAT. They are called as non-numerical numerical type answer, NAT, numerical answer type. So here also the logic is the same. There is no option. You will have to type the answer that you want, right? Similar to what happens in CAT. So that's also there. Now there's something peculiar about XAT, which is not there again in any other entrance exam for MBA. In fact, I don't think there's any other MBA entrance exam in the world that has a penalty like this. So let's understand what is the penalty all about. Normally what happens, you will have, you have +1 mark if you get a correct answer. You will probably have negative 0.25, sometimes negative 0.33, 1/3, depending upon, in terms of ratio. If it is 1 mark positive, then in CAT it is 1/3 of it is negative. So 3 marks and -1. Here, if it is 5 options, then normally it is 1/4 mark. So whatever, if you get wrong, you can get any of these marks, negative marks. And if you leave unattempted, you will get a 0. Right? So this is typically what happens. XAT has a peculiar kind of, penalizing students if you miss many questions. So what they say is up to 8 questions, any 8 questions in the paper, you can leave. No problem, you will get 0. From the 9th question onwards, every question you leave will attract a negative 0.1 mark. Will attract a negative 0.1 mark, which means if you look at the total number of questions here, you have 26, 21, so that's 60, 67, 74 questions, correct? 74 questions. So out of the 74 questions, Karan, GMAT does not have a penalty per se. There is no plus mark, there is no negative mark in GMAT. GMAT does not have a score per question. So it is not same as GMAT. Also GMAT is an adaptive exam. You will not get all the questions at once. So GMAT and XAT are way different. So let's not get into the comparison right now. Anyway, so coming back to this. So you have 74 questions. Let us say you attempted 60 only. 60 questions you got time to attempt, 14 questions you left. Now, out of the 60 questions, negative marks are not there in GK location. In fact, GK does not have marks. They don't display the marks of GK. Okay. Anyway, so you have 60 questions. Let us say out of this you got 40 correct and 20 wrong. So 40 correct will give you 40 marks, 20 wrong will give you -5. So you get a 35 marks. Now they will also look at you left 14. So how many more did you leave above 8? So 14 minus 8 is 6 questions. These 6 will attract penalty. It doesn't matter which section, section 1, section 2, section 3, doesn't matter. As long as it is paper 1, which is maths, English, as well as your decision making. So 6 questions, you will get 0.01 negative everywhere. So you will lose further 0.6 marks. Okay, so you will get 34.4. This is your score. Right, so that's that's something peculiar about XAT. In fact, you might be interested in knowing this. Some of the faculty, some of the professors in XLRI that I have known about, I'm not from XLRI, I'm from IIM Indore, but I had my friends from XLRI. They also had professors who actually give this kind of a system in their subjects. So they give an MCQ saying that if you make a mistake or if you leave, it is the same. In fact, they are being nice here. They are giving you less negative marks, right? 0.25 compared to 0.1. But when you go into the college, there the professors say that, okay, if you get it right, you will get +1. If you get it wrong or you leave, it is a negative mark for you. In fact, the logic they say is, look, why are you leaving? Because you did not prepare, you don't know the answer. You don't know the answer because you didn't prepare, so you should get a negative. Right? There's a penalty for not preparing. So that's their logic. Well, you can deal with it once you cross the border, which is your exam preparation and the PI. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's continue with our discussion right now. I have a question. Harshit says classes run all 60 days from now. No, Harshit, this is not a continuous program. We will have, please stay tuned onto our channel. We will let you know when our XAT classes are happening. Right. So that's the penalty. But again, now the question is, should you or should you not attempt for the penalty? Let's take a quick look and understanding of your probability. So let us say you already left 8 questions. Now the 9th question, you have to make a choice. You have 5 options. Remember, XAT gives you 5 options. Okay. So let us say it is an option-based question, not a NAT. It's a option-based question. You have 5 options. The possibility that you will get correct is 0.2, 20%, right? Because 5 options, only one of them is correct, so 20% right. And expected value, if it is correct, is 1 mark. That is, you can expect to get 0.2 positive. What about the negative side? Negative side, you will be looking at 0.8 because the other 4 options are negative, right, or wrong. So if it is 20% chance for you to success, 80% chance for you to go wrong. And if you go wrong, you will lose 1/4 of a mark, minus 1/4, right? So this negative will be 0.8 into -1/4, which is minus 0.2. So the net result, expected value, this is called as, in probability, the expected value is the expected positive plus the expected negative, which is 0. So if you guess a question, and if you guess, let's say 100 questions, the expected score for you will be 0, because that's what the numbers tell you. That's what the probability tells you. If you play this game long enough, you keep guessing, let's say 100 questions or 1,000 questions, in the long run, the idea is you will not get positive or negative. You'll get a 0. Compare this with the scenario where you are leaving. If you are leaving the question, you are 100% getting minus 0.1. This is guaranteed. Right? So that's the way in which the numbers tell. So now many students look at this and they say, see, if I attempt it, I might get a 0 mark. If I don't attempt it, I'll get a minus 0.1 negative guaranteed. Hence, I will always go and attempt it. Please remember, guys, probability will work. The numbers suggest this when you are playing the game over a long horizon, which means you can play this game. If you play this game for, let's say, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, you will get very close to 0 at the end of 10,000 trials, at the end of 1,000 trials, large numbers. When you play the game for short periods of time, when the number of reattempts are very less for you, like you are doing this game only for 6 questions, or you already attempted out of 74 questions, you already attempted 66. So you have to decide for last 8 questions. That is attempts plus leave, or already 66. Now the last 8 questions, should you leave them and get negative mark, or should you attempt them? The problem here is 8 is such a small number. Now, when you're playing a probabilistic game for a small set of numbers or small set of questions, it could go either ways. You could be extremely lucky or you could be extremely unlucky. The averaging out that people talk about does not happen when you're looking at a small set of sample space. So my recommendation always in an exam like XAT, when you're dealing with 5 or 6 questions, is the decision will be based on this. If you are fairly certain that you got good exam paper, you'll clear your cutoffs, and you are certain that you will get at least 1 or 2 marks ahead of or more than your cutoff, then don't risk it. let you get minus 0.5 or minus 0.6 negative, be happy with it. Don't risk it. So if you are sure that you did a good paper, you are getting a 36, 37 marks and you cannot afford to get any more negative, so you are happy with it, don't risk it. Who should risk it? The people who already know that I am attempting only 30 questions. So anyway, you are not clearing the cutoff at 30 because the cutoffs in XLRI will be around 33, 34 or sometimes 36, 37 depending upon the paper. In fact, last year I believe it was about 35 or 36, something like that. They go as high as 40 also once in a while. They go as low as 34 also depending upon the difficulty level. So if you are a student who already felt or in between the exam that the paper is not going to your way, you are not doing the paper the way you are supposed to do, and you are worried about your cutoff, saying that look, anyway I have attempted only 31 questions, all 31 cannot be correct, so there will be some negatives, so anyway I am not going through it. In such a case, it is worth the risk, because if you are lucky, anyway if you are unlucky, you are anyway not getting anything. If you are lucky that 4-5 marks you are falling short, you can get here. So the decision for attempting or not attempting depends on how your paper went. Okay, that's basically what I want to talk about. NAT I don't think carries negative location. NAT does not carry negative. Okay, so what are the colleges which take XAT exam? XAT exam, obviously the best exam, best college is XLRI Jamshedpur. Then you have Bhubaneswar, then you have GIM, which is Goa Institute of Management, Great Lakes. You have a list of colleges here. You have IMT, Ghaziabad, Amity, Liba, IFMR. I mean, you can see the list over here. Depending upon what your ambitions are, depending upon where you feel you can land, which college is possible for you, you will probably fill those colleges and their applications. Right? Of course, it is needless to say that XLRI Jamshedpur, both BM and HR, these are the most coveted college programs among the list given over here. Especially HR if you are interested in HR. Otherwise, BM is by far the best of the lot over here. Right? Okay, so what are the difficulty levels of comparison versus CAT and XAT? One is, if you look at XAT, normally it is not easy. It's not an easy paper. CAT has been known to be easy, has been known to be moderate. Usually CAT is not very difficult. At least one section out of the 3 sections in CAT will be at least doable. There could be 2 difficult sections, but one section will be easy, which is scoring. XAT, the problem is you have a decision making where the scoring goes down to 6 marks or 5 marks. Siddharth, I'm not saying fill every college application form. Fill those colleges which are your target. See, you need to understand where your preparation is. Guys, please understand, don't please fill all of them. Each application form will cost you something like 800,000, sometimes 2,000 rupees also. So if you want to fill all these, that there itself will be spending something like 15, 16,000. Don't do that. Look at where your preparation is, what are your mock scores, and compare them with the requirement of colleges. If you are a student who is getting a 99 percentile in CAT regularly in your mocks, in your XAT mocks you're getting something like 42, 43 marks, you should definitely look at XLRI Jamshedpur and probably 1 or 2 top colleges and leave the others. If you're a student who's getting 28 marks, 29 marks or 30 marks, 31 marks, not really getting that 36, 37 marks in your XLRI, in your XAT exam or mocks, or in a CAT comparison, if you are at 92, 93 percentile, not really getting the 99 percentile, and you feel that 99 percentile is difficult this year, then probably some of the colleges which are expecting you to get a 95 and above, you should not be filling the form. Right? So keep an idea about what percentile you are getting and what percentile colleges expect. So we'll be having, if you don't have that idea, we will have a separate session on what XAT percentile will give you what XAT college. Clear? But please don't fill all, it will be very costly. Anyway, so XAT on the other hand, so I was talking about the difficulty level. So CAT will always have one paper which is doable. It could have one paper which is difficult and one section which is somewhere in between. It could also be 2 sections difficult, but one will always be there which is doable. Okay? XAT on the other hand has been known to really torture students. There has been XAT papers, by default the decision making is always difficult, because I told you extensively, I spoke about it. What is the problem with decision making? There is no right answer that you can, if I give one question to 5 people, and I'm not talking about students, I give one question to 5 professors, I can guarantee that at least one professor will have a different approach. So that's the problem with decision making. By the nature of it, that section goes for a toss. Quant in your XAT usually, I believe, is at a slightly higher level compared to CAT. Similarly for English, now RC, if you're a student who really likes reading, then CAT is a pleasure trip for you because there's a lot of RC. But if you're a student who does not like grammar, or a student who's not really great in vocabulary words, then XAT is a nightmare, because XAT asks grammar, XAT asks vocabulary also. It asks critical reasoning and those kind of questions too. So if you're a person who's not the analytical kind of person and you are not really good in vocab and grammar, then XAT English can be difficult for you. So depending upon it, I would usually say that XAT will be above moderate level on an average, whereas CAT could be moderate, slightly less than moderate. On the whole, CAT will not be very easy. It will usually be, they try to put it at a moderate level. Here all MCQs, they will actually, it's not all MCQs, we have now NAT also, whereas it is MCQs plus, so it's basically the same here. The number of non-MCQs might differ, but you have both type of questions coming in. Then yes, there is a penalty I already mentioned for non-attempting questions. Here there is no penalty. And time is 1 time per question. So this, don't worry about the number of the seconds per question. You're basically looking at 74 questions in how many minutes is that? 2 hours, I think 144. So 2 hours 24 minutes. Was that correct? 165. 2 hours 25 minutes. 45. Sorry, 2 hours 45 minutes. So that's basically the time here, but you have only about 2 hours over here, 2 hours 66 questions, so you have 108 seconds per question. But the other thing you need to keep in mind, it might look that time per question is slightly higher, but trust me guys, the decision making will eat away your time. You feel that there's no calculation, so it should be faster, but it will not be faster. Decision making will take time for you. So please practice thoroughly on that. Sections, we discussed quite a bit about the number of sections and what sections are going to be. So let's move on. So let's take a look at the number of questions totally. This is what is more relevant. Last 2 years, last 3 years, in fact, it has been constant. They've changed the pattern since 2020 and they've stuck to the pattern. They have not changed it. It's 26, 28 and 21. Okay, and of course GK was always been 25 questions. They did not touch GK in the last 5 years. Essay has always been 1, so that also has not been changed. Okay, this is interesting. You did not have essay in 20 and 21, especially 2021. The reason is because of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, they could not ask students to sit and write the papers because it was supposed to be a no-touch thing, not papers also, even typing. They wanted to make sure that the exam is over in about 2.5 hours or 2 hours 45 minutes. So they did not increase the time of the exam by giving an essay also. So last time they did away with the essay, but this time we can expect the essay to be happening. Last year when I said 2020 and 21, 2022 essay happened. So that is 2022 January, the essay did happen. Let's move on. Okay, so here the percentiles that you can get based on the score. So look at the overall percentile. If you're looking at a 99 percentile, you need a 36.25 based on last year's score. If you're looking at a 97 percentile, you need a 32.75. The cutoff for XLRI BM will be in the range of 35 to 37 depending upon the difficulty level of the paper. It will be anywhere between 35 to 37. Sometimes it can go to 38 also. Whereas the cutoff for the HR, this is for BM, the cutoff for the HR would be probably about 1.5 marks less than this. So it could be anywhere between 33 to 35, 35.5. So this could be the range for your HR. Yes, HR will have a little bit of lesser requirement as far as your overall cutoff is concerned. Well, then where else? Yes. So if you're looking at a 95 percentile, you are looking at 30 plus. So if you're getting above 30, you will be getting a 95 percentile in your XAT. Okay. Let's move on. Right. So these are the cutoffs overall. Okay. So when they mention overall is 94 percentile, please don't be fooled by this. This is the minimum requirement. Okay. But students are expected to get 98 and above for you to get actually an interview call. Okay, so like every other institute, there is a minimum requirement. That does not necessarily mean that you'll be getting the interview call. So for you to get an interview call, you need to be in the top list of the students. So everybody who meet the cutoffs will be taken into a list. In that list, they will select the top students that they want. Top students means top 1,000 students or top 2,000 students, whatever their number is. So if 5,000 students qualify, in that 5,000, only the top 2,000 will be selected. So that's how it is. Right. So the preparation small tips that I'm going to talk about. GK, please start preparing from June. The last 5 to 6 months of the GK. See, the paper is in January, which means they will freeze the questions by probably November or even before that. So you're looking at 6 months before November, and that should be your current affairs, because usually they ask a lot of current affair questions in your GK. So prepare June, even go back a little bit more if you can do from March, April, or financial year starting April onwards, that will be great. Right? At least I would say from June. I would say to be on the safe side, start from April. Okay. Current affairs is something which they ask quite a lot, so make sure that you don't stick only, there's no point in mugging up tons and tons of data about static data. Make sure that you're focused on what are the events that have taken place, what are the important events that have taken place in the last 6-7 months. The level of difficulty should be higher. Don't worry about the easy ones. They will not be easy questions in your XAT. Not many easy. There will of course be some easy questions, but the overall paper will not be easy. So go for level of difficulty moderate and above moderate as far as your RCs are concerned. Similarly, if you want to, if you have a GMAT official guide, please go for verbal logic. Your critical reasoning, one paragraph and a question based on that. Critical reasoning questions, the best source for you to prepare is if you have the GMAT official guide, it will be great. Okay. And of course, you try to improve your vocabulary. You cannot say you become perfect in vocabulary, because nobody can become perfect in a language. It's just a progress. It's just a relative comparison. Today over tomorrow, tomorrow after over day after tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So you try to be as much as you can. But yeah, the problem comes in decision making. If you can dig the last 6 years papers up, you will be having at least 120, 130 decision making questions. The key is already there. So please solve all these 120, 130 decision making questions. That should be an excellent source of information for you. The reason why I'm asking you to solve the decision making questions given by the XAT conveners is simply because their way of thinking is what ultimately matters. I told you, right? I will think something, you will think something, they will think something else. Ultimately, whoever answer matches with their key will be getting the marks. So you solve what they gave and according to their key. So when you start understanding the way their key is made, you'll start understanding the way they think. So one of the things you'll realize is they are not lenient at all. So when you're looking at any of these college scenarios where there is some leniency that is possible, their answers are just no leniency. So you need to understand these small nuances. Only then your decision making will fit what they expect. Okay. Otherwise, you might think, okay, why can't we do it something? I mean, they are very sorry about it. Why can't I let them go? So, but when they look at from their perspective, they will always say no. Mistake is a mistake. They should be punished. So such kind of their understanding you should be getting into your answers, and that's what will give you more marks. So do decision making. First, I would always say decision making from the last 5, 6 years or 7 years of XAT papers, because that will help you understand the way they think. The other sources, any other source that you have might not have the same kind of a characteristic of a question and the answer compared to what they do. Okay. And of course, arithmetic and geometry, arithmetic base system, geometry, mensuration, level of difficulty 2 and 3 above is required for your maths. Again, as I said, it is not going to be an easy paper. Give extra importance to PNC probability. Guys, all of you who are preparing for CAT, usually you leave out these topics of PNC probability. But this is an exam which will ask 3 to 4 questions from this PNC probability. So if you left your PNC probability for CAT, you have the entire December to prepare for XAT. Don't leave PNC probability at all. There will be 4 questions, 3 to 4 minimum questions from these 2 areas put together. That's a good number of questions, given that there are 23 questions from quant and 5 questions, 23 plus 4, 27 questions overall. So given that there are 23, you can expect 40% of the questions, 20% of the questions coming only from these 2 areas. So please don't leave them. right? And of course, you have a ton of material already with you in terms of the XAT papers. And if you're following us on this channel as well as our app, you will have a lot more sessions and a lot more questions given by our team, BYJU'S Exam Prep, in your preparation for XAT. Naman Kothari, for XAT DI, you don't have to worry anything great. The preparation you have for CAT, your CAT DI, which is graph-based questions that you prepared, that should be good enough. DI, I would say the XAT and CAT levels are not much of a difference. I mean, they're kind of similar. At least you should not worry too much about it. Okay, but if you prepared enough for CAT, that should be enough for DI, particularly for XAT. Right, so guys, we are there in all of these channels. Please do follow us, especially on Instagram. We give out questions every day for you to solve. Please follow us on this channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're going to conduct a lot of these sessions for XAT, CAT, IFT, almost every MBA entrance exam. And please join, download our app from the App Store or the Apple Store, whichever phone you use. And please, keep the notification up, because there are certain sessions which are done only on YouTube. There are certain sessions that are done only on the app. So if you want the benefit of both, please be there on both the channels, right? Yes, Naman, you can go for CAT previous year question papers, but to be very fair, now that you're asking me a little bit more about this, I would rate XAT DI to be a tad more difficult, a little bit more difficult than your CAT DI. Okay? Fine. Thank you, my friends. That brings me to the end of the session. I will see you in the next one. All the best.